Hello again, fellow orchid lovers. So here's my update 6-month video on my Phalaenopsis orchids. As you can see, I have quite a few of them. A lot of people who do waterculture say that Phalaenopsis is the easiest of the orchids to transfer to waterculture. And unfortunately, I do not find that to be true. They have given me across the board the most trouble converting to waterculture. Not really sure why that is, but that's kind of been my experience with them, with the exception of a few. A few of them have transferred to waterculture absolutely beautifully, but for the majority, I've had some struggles. One of the few orchids that I have killed while doing waterculture was a mini phal. I don't know why I continue to purchase mini phals. Don't know why. They keep dying on me, and yet I keep buying them. For instance, this orchid right here, this is a mini phal. I just got this orchid. Her buds are blasting. So that's fun. There are 3 orchids that I have. The mini phal, this one in the front here, this is the one that has the huge magenta blooms. And then this one back here, it's purple spotted orchid. These 3 orchids, I feel I was too busy listening to other people and not really focusing on what my orchids were telling me, and so I'm gonna stop doing that. Each person's method for growing is different, and some Phalaenopsis orchids don't mind drying out, and then some do. This one, I let it dry out and all the roots died. This one, I let it dry out and all the roots died. Did I learn my lesson? No. I just got this mini phal. I let it dry out. All the roots are dying. However, I have 2 orchids over here that they can dry out and they're perfectly fine with that. So, and then this one also too. But we'll get to those. So my advice to people growing orchids is it's good to watch what other people do, but if you have a method and it's working, don't be so quick to change it. Don't be so quick to jump and say, well, they're telling me my roots are gonna rot, so I have to change my method. You will see signs that something's wrong, and then you can adjust accordingly. If you're growing and everything's fine and everything's good, unless the person you're talking to lives in the same area as you, has the same type of growing environment as you, and has been doing it for years, take their advice, but don't necessarily jump to do everything everybody tells you. That's a mistake I made. All right, enough, guys. The puppies are giving some trouble here. That's a mistake I made, and now I'm kind of paying the price for it. I have now 3 more orchids in ICU that I have to, keep an eye on. So this one, it's got smaller leaves. This is the newest leaf. It's still growing, but the leaves that came before it are much, much smaller than, what it was. The roots are in terrible shape. However, this one's a little awkward to handle because of this long leaf. You can see the nubbin is starting there, so things are going better for this orchid. But I mean, look at those old roots. Terrible. So it's starting to turn a corner, but it's been a little bit of a struggle to save this orchid. This is one of the orchids that I got that smelled like pesticide, so that might also have been working in its disfavor. This again is the mini phal that I just got. All the buds are blasting. I did let this orchid dry out a little bit, and that was clearly a mistake. Its roots all shriveled up. There's a few that are still green, but I can tell they are not happy. If I could tell you, when I took this out of the pot, see all those shriveled roots? They were all plump. I put them in waterculture, they were still plump. I took them out of water for a day and a half, they all shriveled. So, it's very possible that they were on their way out. Waterculture kind of you can't really hide a sick orchid in water culture. Water culture is going to reveal to you if an orchid is sick. So it may be that the roots that were on this plant were already not doing great. But me taking it out of water kind of, I think, made the process a little bit quicker. And it's a mini phal, and I just don't do well with them, but somehow I keep buying them. This purple spotted one, this is the one that months ago, if you look at my old videos, had the crazy, amazing, wonderful roots. So this is where we're at with this one. Again, in my last video with the oncidiums, I did indicate that I remove the velamen and I leave the strings of the roots. Most of these roots, the velamen's here, and then it all rotted up here. So I took that off. And then whatever strings are left, so I'm putting it in the water. The orchid is being hydrated. I do feel some nubs starting to come through. I know that's a dark shot, I'm sorry. And it's growing a new leaf. So hopefully this has also turned a corner. The leaves are not getting wrinkly. So it's not dehydrated. Well, that's a little wrinkly, but it's still very firm. So it's not really dehydrated. So what I'm doing to try to save it is working. Coincidentally, this orchid is in Super Thrive. I started using Super Thrive, and I do believe that it helps. The hormones in there help to grow new roots. It seems to be successful for me. So if anyone's interested in that product, can't hurt. It does seem to help. This is my orchid that I've had for over a year. This is the one that I showed my last video was getting roots. Look at that. Look at that those pretty roots. So this was one of my ICU orchids, and it has certainly turned a corner. And again, this had no roots for months. It just had those tiny little strings. Do you see those? Come on, focus with me here. It just had these tiny little strings. And that's what was hydrating the orchid this whole time. And now look at the roots. So those little strings of roots without the velamen can be used to the benefit of the orchids. Just keep that in mind. This is my Harlequin orchid. This also lost a lot of her roots. My Phalaenopsis, for some reason, they just dump their roots. It's just what they do. I know that in the growth cycle of orchids, they do. They go through cycles of root growth, root dump, root growth, root dump. But I mean, she's got some new leaves. This is a new leaf. This is a new leaf. Again, they're smaller, but I mean, she has basically no roots. So of course the growths are not going to be huge, but look at that. She's getting another root. So that's good. So I think she is also on the mend. This is my Young Home Sweetie. She got a new leaf. I know that there's purple on this orchid, but that's how she came to me. I think it's part of the genetics of the orchid. I don't think that it's a nutrient deprivation. I think it's just part of the genetics of the orchid. I could be wrong, but it does seem like the new leaves that come out have the purple, and then as they mature, the purple goes away, but it does remain on the back of the orchid. And like I said, I do think that's just the genetics of the orchid. One of her spikes I cut off. The other one seemed to want to branch for me. So we'll see if it does that. It has been cut for a few weeks and it's not dying back. And this does seem to be getting slightly bigger, but very minutely. So we'll see. We'll keep our eye on it. If it starts to die back, I'll cut it off. Or if for some reason it seems like the orchid's going through some type of distress, I'll cut it off. I know it's hard to see in this vase. Let me take this off and try to take her out a little. She has a new root there. So she's doing well. This is one of my orchids that was in ICU and is no longer in ICU. She did grow this leaf. It is, again, smaller than her others, but she was in my ICU. She had just one long root, this long root. The only thing that was hydrating the plant was that root, and look at that. Those are her new roots. She's got another one coming there. So she's doing well as well. She's no longer an ICU orchid. She was in Super Thrive, but now that she's no longer an ICU orchid, she is getting regular fertilizer routine with the others. With my orchids, I don't really put them in a whole lot of water. I just barely, with the Phalaenopsis, I just put the bottoms of the roots and then I leave the majority of the plant in the air. And even though I only put a little bit of water, the whole root will turn green because it's absorbing the water through the whole root. So it's not necessary to put the whole root in, at least for my orchids. I do know other people that grow Phalaenopsis. Certain Phalaenopsis want more water and certain Phalaenopsis want less. And I think that's where I have a problem with Phalaenopsis, all the different variables from different type to different type. Like I said, this orchid and this orchid and that orchid, you can let them dry for a day or so. You can take the water out and their roots will be perfectly fine. But the majority of my Phalaenopsis, they like to be at least in a little bit of water at all times. So I think that's part of, the problem. This is my Fuller's Gold Stripe. This is my healthiest phal. I mean, look at all those leaves. And it's growing another one. This spike is doing well. It continues, I'm so sorry. I'm really trying to learn this whole camera angle thing. It continues to get more buds. So its mitten keeps staying green and getting more. This is its latest one. Looks really pretty. I really love this orchid. And it's got branches. So hopefully we'll get more flowers from that. So it's doing really well. It really likes, how I'm treating it. The roots are staying green, they're not rotting. This is one of the ones, again, that I can let dry out. This is the other one that I can let dry out. This is my Elegant Karen Aloha. And her roots have stayed healthy. I haven't had a problem with them. Again, you can see how low the level is. I just put the bottom of the roots in the water and look, the root turns green all the way up. So I don't really put a lot of water in the glass. You do see, especially on more humid days, the glass gets a little foggy. But my temperature, my temperatures don't get really high. I mean, we are having a warm snap. It is September and it's in the 80s right now. I live in New York, so, that's really cool for us. Not cool as in temperature, cool as in really exciting. So the summer is continuing a little bit into September, so that's great. But typically this time of year, it's starting to get chilly. The leaves are starting to turn colors. So I don't really get like really hot temperatures most of the year. August is usually the hottest month and then it starts to get cool again. But this is its newest leaf. It's doing really well. No flower spikes that I've seen, but it's probably not time for them yet. It needs to go through a little bit of a cold snap to trigger those flower spikes to start. Now the last Phalaenopsis that I'm gonna show you is this one. This one is still in its original pot. I just got this. So my sister-in-law brought this over yesterday for me. I've been wanting a yellow one for a while now, and this is just stunning. It's so much more vivid in person. I wish you guys could see it. It looks kind of creamy on the picture here, but it's very vivid yellow, and the lip is like fluorescent almost. It's got like those stripes back there, just beautiful. And the story behind this is her grandmother was very ill recently and in the hospital that I work at. And so at night before I'd leave, I'd go and visit her and bring her things that she wanted. She loved food, so she kept craving strawberry ice cream. So I brought her some strawberry ice cream. And she had told her granddaughter, who is my sister-in-law, that she knew how much I loved orchids, and so when she got better, she wanted to buy me an orchid. Unfortunately, she did not get better, so she never got an opportunity to get me an orchid. I didn't even know she had that intention. And then yesterday, her granddaughter showed up at my house with this beautiful orchid and said that her grandmother had wanted me to have one, and so she bought one for me, and I was just so touched, just unbelievably touched by that. So we're gonna unpot her, and she's just always gonna have a very special place in my heart. Just besides the beautiful blooms, you know, she's gonna remind me of a very special lady. So yeah, that's my Phalaenopsis collection. They're all doing pretty good. I haven't lost anything other than that mini phal. I wish you could have seen the blooms on this one. The whole reason why, even though it was a mini, I decided to buy it anyways, was because of the blooms. The blooms were gorgeous. They're like this deep, like almost like a wine red color, and they have white all the way around the edges of every single petal. So just a beautiful flower. I'm disappointed I didn't get a chance to show that to you. But hopefully I'll be able to, this time, get my mini to live, and it won't die on me, and you'll see it sometime maybe in the future. So that's my Phalaenopsis update. 6 months, water culture, still going strong, only lost one, and it was a mini. And apparently minis don't like me. So we'll hope that our success continues, and I will talk to you next time.